And welcome into the Press Box Fantasy Football Show. Glenn Clark, Kyle Ottenheimer, and our lovely and talented host, Mr. Ken Zalis. Good morning, KZ. Bright and early start for us this week.
Bright and early. Good morning.
Good to see you, pal, right here in the Chesapeake Employers Insurance Studio of Press Box. The Press Box Fantasy Football Show is brought to you by the U.S. Army. What's your warrior? Become it in the Army. Whether you want to cure diseases or develop technology the world doesn't know exists yet, the Army is where all of that can happen. Find out more by contacting your local Army recruiter and follow us on social media at U.S. Army Baltimore. Ask yourself, what's your warrior? And go to goarmy.com/Baltimore to find out. No bye weeks this week in the NFL. This is a really weird bit that, like, there's none this week, but still two more next week.
So annoying.
Like, can you explain that at all?
No, I don't. And again, my memory is not good, but I don't recall them doing this that often. I don't. I always felt like, I think they did it for the first time last year. It used to be the bye weeks were done by week 12.
Right.
And now we have this annoying thing with week 13. And
I said 4 teams a week from week 5 to week 12. This shouldn't be hard.
It should be hard.
Right.
It shouldn't be. But it's crazy. And, of course, you know, the two teams that you have next week, like, nobody is interested in the two teams that are on bye next week in Carolina and Tampa.
They would be if Christian McCaffrey was coming back next week.
Well, he would probably play next week.
Love that he's not playing again.
Yeah, that's a fun bit.
But
you should be getting him back for your playoffs.
You should, and I hope we do, because I just traded for him in a league that I am in the playoffs, and I own Mike Davis, and it's one of these, like, dynasty keeper leagues, so I traded some young talent.
You acquired Christian McCaffrey in a dynasty keeper league?
You can't keep McCaffrey.
That would be a valuable piece of information in this situation.
You can't keep
relevant.
You can't keep McCaffrey. You can't keep your first round guys. So
you can only keep the guys that stink.
Correct. So or something like 3 years. I don't know what the
Ken's been keeping
is.
Chris Moore for years.
You just wait.
His guy.
Yeah, that's my guy.
They have a wide receiver issue. He's going to fill right in.
I actually had to be reminded he was still on the Ravens this week. But so I traded for him, and I gave up now the guy that, you know, is out of it, and he wanted young talent, and it sucks for him this week because I traded him Dobbins.
Sure, that's not going to help him this week.
It's not going to help him this week. And Judy. So two guys that in a dynasty keeper format are pretty valuable going into next year.
Very much so, yeah.
And you got McCaffrey?
And I got McCaffrey.
For the rest of this year.
You're just selling out.
Yeah, that's
you're like real big fish.
I think I can win this league.
That seems a bit aggressive on
your part.
I
hear you.
I can win it this year.
I get, but like you probably just gave up a couple studs.
I did.
Well,
I did. But
like you're the expert.
But okay, take it into the real NFL. We like to pretend that fantasy is real. If you had the chance to win a Super Bowl, would you do everything in your power to win that Super Bowl, or would you just say, "Oh, well, maybe next year and the year after I could"?
But you know what? You don't always win the Super Bowl.
You don't.
Sometimes your quarterback gets hurt, for example. There's things that occur.
You got to go for it.
I hear you.
You got to go for it.
Ken,
I'm going for it.
This is your life, man. I'm not here to tell you to live
and
it.
It's now or never.
Except that's right.
Who knows what next year?
Well, he does want to live forever.
You know?
That's the different part.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to get to your questions later on in the program. I know that for those of you that like to watch or listen to the show live, you might be a little taken aback. Because it might be that you didn't realize we already did the show. Well, that's on you. We announced it plenty of times ahead of time that we were going to do the show at a different time. And did you really think that we were going to come in here on Thanksgiving at 11:30 a.m. to do the show?
Au contraire.
Was that really something that you thought was going to occur? That's on you. But for those of you that are with us live, get your questions in the comments right now. Or tweet me at Glenn Clark Radio, and we will get to them later on in the program. KZ, we start with the aforementioned Baltimore Ravens. No J.K. Dobbins for this week.
Yep.
Let's start with this week, and then we'll get to, like what could linger. Or I guess we'll cover it both at the same time. I would presume that Gus Edwards is a fairly safe play, in most leagues this week. I would presume that if you're a Gus Edwards owner somehow, either because you were holding on to him or because you managed to get him, you're probably playing him. I think there's some question like that. The reality is the math would allow for those guys. The 10 days would be up. They could come back by next week as long as they don't have symptoms. So it might just be a 1 week thing that we're talking about here with Gus Edwards. But I would think you're probably playing Gus Edwards.
Yeah, I think in I'm going to say about 80% of the leagues, he was probably owned because of when Mark Ingram went down and they still weren't committing to J.K. Dobbins at that point. And quite frankly, until last week, they weren't committing to J.K. Dobbins. So Gus Edwards was in the pecking order, was the number 2 guy if something happened to Ingram. So, and Ingram being hurt and coming back for some reason.
He had a defined role, but it was just
right. But it wasn't. It wasn't. Right. He was a very low yardage, touchdown dependent guy that you use because of COVID and bye weeks and injuries, but he should have been owned. I mean, if he was out on the waiver wire, he was one of the better waiver wire pickups because he's going to get the majority of the touches this week. Now, people will say, well, it's a terrible matchup, and yes, it is, but this is the same matchup that they rushed for over 200 yards against, a couple of weeks ago. So he should be owned. I think there is in situations, I think Justice Hill, maybe not so much in league play, but DFS has some, juice to him a little bit. You can see 5 touches to 10.
Is it even worth owning Justice Hill in a normal league? I can't fathom that.
I'll be honest. I picked him up in a couple leagues that I'm desperate in, and I just need. I picked up Perrine a couple of weeks ago, and now that's not working out. It's a league that I've been hit with injuries, and I still have Eckler.
But there's no real. I mean, granted, outside of, and God forbid, right, the scenario where where for the long term, right, J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram are out.
Yes.
With COVID. Like, that's the only scenario where it feels like Justice Hill is going to have any value.
No, but probably going forward, no. But for this week, I think there is some value there. He should be on all the passing downs. He should be the back.
But where are you ranking him this week?
Oh, I don't know. He'll be way down. But,
I would think that you'd have to be in extreme circumstances.
You do, but he should be owned because of the situation we just talked about.
Probably, right?
And that's what I started with. It's probably a better DFS play than a week. But what if next week, this Justice Hill should be on your roster because several things can happen, as we've seen all year.
Right.
One, Ingram and Dobbins may not come back next week.
It's a shaky timeline.
What if Gus Edwards gets hurt this week? You have a starting running back next week. This is how you churn the bottom of your bench.
I understand what you're saying.
So, yes, he should be owned everywhere. There's,
well, you only have so many roster spots.
Well, in some leagues,
fair.
yeah.
Yes.
But again, the chance to have a starting running back outweighs the chance that your 6th wide receiver that you're not starting this week should be on your roster.
Yeah, but I love that guy. It's Chris Moore. That's my guy. You know that. That's where I am.
Yeah. Those special teams tackles, those 4, they really come in handy.
IDP is a very, very valuable format.
IDP.
Justice Hill was getting those last week. For what it's
I know, for what it's worth. I know. Big hit.
That was his role. All right, the Press Box Fantasy Football Show with Ken Zalis is also brought to you by Glory Days Grill, the new fall-winter seasonal menu now available for dine-in, dine-out on the patio, or to go. It's a new season, so enjoy some new flavors. Try their new shrimp appetizers, homemade meatloaf, impossible cheesesteaks, and more. They're open from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. Visit glorydaysgrill.com for a location near you. From the Glory Days Grill family, stay healthy and positive during this challenging time in our community. Is Taysom Hill someone we're playing at quarterback now?
He's in my top 10.
Wow.
Look, Taysom Hill was probably, to be fair, better throwing the ball than we expected.
I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
He had one arm punt, which was
but he was efficient.
Sure.
He's got 2 guys that will make most quarterbacks a lot better no matter who you are. If you throw the ball to Michael Thomas, and I know he
love the decoy role for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, and Alvin Kamara takes, if you're not going to throw it to him, he takes 2 guys with him. Yeah. So it opens up some things. And we got what we expected out of Taysom Hill, which is rushing yards, and he scored. I give this to you. I'd rather start Taysom Hill this week than Lamar Jackson because he does the Jackson role better than Lamar Jackson is doing right now.
He's got weapons also.
He does, but he does have the weapons. He has the weapons, but He's rushing for touchdowns. One of the best play
callers in football.
Okay, all that leads me to say
I get it.
He's ranked higher this week for me.
I feel like you're just fueling the fire.
No, I'm not.
Taysom Hill's better than Lamar Jackson.
No, I'm not. This is fantasy purposes only for this week against a Denver defense that you can move the ball on, as we saw last week. If he's going to rush for 50 yards and a touchdown, that's a huge advantage over a lot of quarterbacks. And you still have guys he's going to throw to, I think, 175, 200 yards. He throws throws one touchdown. I think he's viable in fantasy as a quarterback now, since that's the only place he's now available as a quarterback.
Now, what about people who have not moved him from their tight end slot?
It won't let you do it.
No, there are people who...
I know, no. It gives you a message. It says you have an illegal player.
But if you don't change your lineup...
We'll see how that works.
What do you mean?
Well, what he's saying is that ESPN is...
ESPN won't let you make any other lineup changes.
That, yeah.
They won't let you make any waiver wire moves.
In both of my leagues, somebody is still...
Then, as I told you yesterday, they're doing that to their detriment. You're worried about something that, you should... it's going to hurt them.
I'm not so sure it is.
It is. They're going to have a player get hurt. They're going to have... That's the way this works.
Well, but his point is will the points still accrue?
Yeah, there's going to be...
If you don't move them out. Yeah. And I think... The way ESPN's done this, and they were wrong for doing this, I'll just say that on the record, and everybody can complain about that. But... they're not going to allow points to accrue. They're just not.
And as they shouldn't, of course. If they're going to decide...
There's no reason. If they made the change...
They shouldn't have let the guy had tight end eligibility last week. They should have done this. They should have gotten ahead of this.
Okay, we'll disagree with that. You and I will disagree about that.
Why?
Because that's...
I'm not...
the rules of the game...
I have no problem. This is not me saying the guy that picked him up in your league should be penalized No. It's me saying that ESPN should have gotten ahead of it.
But ESPN, by their own rules, couldn't get ahead of it because from the draft, that's how they designated him. And in their own rules, they say they will not change player designations.
They've altered.
I understand that. So someone like me, that punted tight end, and in the 18th round of a deep draft said, you know what? Tight end, I don't have anybody else I'm going to take.
But it doesn't.
I can play tight end. I can play him, and I waited 12 weeks to do this.
It doesn't change whether or not you were trying to take advantage of a loophole.
I understand
that's what you were doing. You're not. It's nothing genuine about that.
But it's not
Taysom Hill wasn't a tight end.
But there are instances where that has worked and been allowed in the past.
But he wasn't
like Joe
a quarterback either.
Right.
But it's just they've done this before, and they've never taken it away. There's many situations that this has been done before, and the guy you just mentioned, Webb. I mean, people did the same thing with him for a couple weeks.
I have no problem with the guy that did that. I'm not mad. No. There's a guy in one of my leagues who played Taysom Hill as a tight end. I'm not mad at him.
I'm not mad at him either. You're allowed to do it.
I'm saying that in the spirit of playing fantasy football,
I understand that.
Taysom Hill is not a tight end, and you shouldn't be able to play Taysom Hill as a tight end.
You can't change rules of a fantasy football league after the draft. That's just.
But if the rule has now been changed, right? Now that the rule is changed, and the loophole doesn't exist, it shouldn't be allowed. You think?
Right? No, it should not be allowed.
It does kind of strike in the face of the thing that you were talking about a second ago.
No, it doesn't. I mean, they changed the rule. No, they changed the rule. If he's now a quarterback, you can't start him as a tight end. He doesn't have that.
But he was a quarterback last week, and you were okay with him being started as a tight end
because he has
there was the loophole that was still allowed.
You're just basing this on some weird loophole.
It's not a weird loophole. It's how they designate. I didn't designate him. They designated him.
So this is only your opinion is only changed because they've taken away the loophole. I'm so confused by that.
My opinion is that they shouldn't have changed the rules. They shouldn't have taken away the tight end designation at all. That's my point. Okay? But since they have, and these are now the new rules that we have to play with, he shouldn't be allowed to accrue points as a tight end.
Yeah, we're going to eternally disagree with this one because it's the spirit of competition, man. This is... We're making things up for the sake of making them up.
So you think if somebody has them in the tight end spot right now, they should be able to accrue points?
No, not at all.
Okay, we agree with that.
I think immediately, the moment that it was announced that he was a starting quarterback, everyone should have been told, you can't play the guy as a tight end.
I agree.
That's the way...
That's what I just said.
It's not what you just said.
It is.
It's okay.
I agree with you.
It's fine.
I don't think they should have changed it.
Everything's going to be just fine. Are we trusting Chris Carson in his first week back?
Yes.
Where do you have him ranked?
I don't know. I haven't ranked
Great.
him yet. He will be, at worst, a top 20 running back for me.
Sure. That sounds about right.
Okay.
That sounds about right.
At worst. He may move up, depending on, injuries and different things. But there's been enough talk where he could have, like if it was a playoff game, he would have played last week type thing. I'm going to trust him.
Okay. Anybody else? I feel like there was somebody else that we were thinking might be coming back this week. Now it's blanking.
Well, Eckler, we still have to see.
We're not nearly as confident about that as we are.
He said he's
playing.
Very confident.
He said he's playing. They said they're going to let him practice this week. Thursday, I don't know what teams' schedules are really with the holiday, but I assume Thursday morning and Friday will be big days. If he gets a limited on Thursday and a full on Friday, I'm going to assume he's going to play. And, he's going back in my top 20.
Now, how do you handle that? Like, if you're a Balaj owner, like, is there still value there? Because Eckler,
okay, it's over. You can't start Balaj once Eckler is back. It's a desperation play.
I don't know. They've used two running backs.
They have, but you lose a lot. You lose a lot of your touches.
He was getting a lot it.
Oh, I hear you.
You just lose. I can understand if you say, well, I have no choice but Balaj. I get it. He's not gonna be flex worthy for me.
And still play Balaj over Justice Hill.
If DeAndre Swift were to play this week,
God, I hope he plays. Oh man, yeah,
you're confident.
Yeah, I am. I get it. The only thing that hesitates me is the in-game injury part of it because he's coming off of a concussion. But if he's approved to play, they handed the keys over to him. Fantastic matchup against the Texans. So, he's going to be a top 15 guy for me.
All right. You got questions. We got answers. Well, maybe. We'll try to get you answers. That's what we're going to attempt to do. So get them in at Glenn Clark Radio on Twitter. Post them in the comments on Facebook, and we will pose them to KZ next. This is the Press Box Fantasy Football Show.
Glory Days Grill fall-winter seasonal menu is now available for dine-in, dine-out, on the patio, or to-go. It's a new season, so enjoy new flavors. Try their new shrimp appetizers, homemade meatloaf, impossible cheesesteaks, and more. They're open from 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. Visit GloryDaysGrill.com for a location near you. From the Glory Days Grill family, stay healthy and positive during this challenging time in our community.
With Wise Market's lowest price guarantee, we guarantee the lowest price in the area. If a local competitor advertises any of our tagged lowest price guarantee items at a lower price, we'll give you double the difference with purchase.
Eat better, spend less, that's Wise.
Looking to get one up on the competition? Supercharge your computer skills. CCBC has classes at all levels from beginner to expert coder. Explore Microsoft Office, gaming, or even ethical hacker. Maybe hardware is your gig. Become A+ certified. All tuition free if you qualify. Call 443-840-4700 or visit ccbcmd.edu/quickreg.
If you're looking to make an impact, there's no better place to do that than the U.S. Army. Whether your goal is to fight and cure deadly diseases, develop technologies, or seek adventures across the globe, the Army is where all of that can happen, and so much more. The Army is a team of 1 million individuals working together to take on the most complex problems in the nation and the world, and to win. Ask yourself, what's your warrior? Go to army.com/Baltimore to find out. To learn more, contact your local Army recruiter and find us on social media at U.S. Army Baltimore.
All right, this is the Press Box Fantasy Football Show with Ken Zalis, Thanksgiving week edition of the program. KZ, I had Joe Burrow as my backup quarterback. I still survived in that. Like, by the way,
I had him as my starter last week.
Yeah, I did. I had to start him because Josh Allen was my. I survived by, this is not a joke, I fell behind on Monday night. Tom Brady throwing an interception on the final play is how I won. It's one of the more remarkable.
It's a fantasy football
miraculous. And this is what makes me a jerk. I actually sent the guy a note hey, after, because the last completion to Chris Godwin put him on top because he had Godwin too. And I sent him a note. I was so pissed about Sean McVay just giving up on third down. I was like, I hate Sean McVay forever. Congratulations. And the guy literally said, I don't feel good. He could still throw another pick. And the next play.
Oh my God.
was an interception. It was a magical night.
Yes.
So I'm looking for somebody to carry as Josh Allen's backup the rest of the way, just in case something were to happen.
Brandon Allen.
Gardner Minshew.
Gardner Minshew
is starting this week.
No, Mike Glennon is starting this week. No. Mike Glennon is the starter for the Jaguars.
Well, I guess that officially rules Shark out for me.
Maybe we'll talk about that in a second. I could pick up like Tua, but they just benched him last week. They feel so good about him. I could pick up
really
Baker Mayfield.
No.
Well, I'm not going to play one of these guys this week. Josh Allen's playing. The question is
somehow Daniel Jones available?
He is.
Pick him up.
Okay.
Done.
Why Daniel Jones?
Because the Giants have a cake 14, 15, 16. If we're looking at playoffs.
But is there anything such as a cake 14, 15, 16 when you're the New York Giants?
No, but it's really good. It's really good.
All right.
It's Lamar Jackson good.
All right. I'll do that. Daniel Jones is the guy that I'm picking up then.
Yeah, but their offensive line is still the Giants.
This is a generic question from Tim. He wants to know how you feel about James White now with Rex Burkhead.
Better. I mean, I don't understand how you take one of your best weapons and not use him all year, but now they kind of forced to use him as the pass because they have no other passing down guys. So I feel better. I'm still...
Seems sort of game script.
I'm not. Yeah, it's very game scripty. I'm still not convinced that they want to use him because they haven't. And you're going to have Harris and you're going to have Sony Michel both active on game days, so they're going to try to run the ball. And I think he's at best flex worthy for me.
All right, from Tim, Jarvis Landry or Mike Williams?
We'll go Mike Williams. Jarvis Landry, we were just having this discussion
off
the air. I mean, it's, Baker hasn't been good, and since, nobody's really worried about Rashad Higgins, so all the attention goes to the middle of the field with Landry, and he's just not getting the targets.
All right, save it because he's got a follow-up. Hang on, save it. He says, start one of these three: James Robinson, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift.
James Robinson, Miles Sanders, DeAndre Swift. James Robinson.
Okay.
He gets 25 carries a game.
And then he says he needs a flex, so his options would be Sanders, Swift, Landry. He also says Gallman and White. I don't know why he didn't include them with his running backs, but obla-dee, obla-da.
We're going to go Sanders. The fumble kind of washed away our day last week. But Sanders is still a top 10 guy against Seattle. They don't stop anybody, so we're going to go Sanders.
That's a good point about Seattle. Paul from Ovilando, full point PPR, needs a flex. Chark, Duke Johnson, or Debo?
I'm not. It's tough for me to play Chark with Glennon being the quarterback.
Man.
I mean, it's really tough.
Can confirm.
Who was the second guy?
It was Duke Johnson.
Can't play Duke anymore. He's had his
great matchup.
It's been great for a couple
of
weeks.
The worst rush.
I don't know if you ever listened to Glenn Clark Radio, but we have a saying: "It's Duke sucks."
Yeah, Duke does suck, and that hurts me as
such a good matchup.
It is. I can't.
It's the worst in football. Both teams are actually kind of the worst in football at stopping the run.
I'm going to go Debo.
All right. From Ryan. Ryan says Cleveland defense against Jacksonville or New York defense against Cincinnati. Both pretty appealing, aren't they?
Where's the coin?
Right. The Cleveland defense was quite good a week ago.
They were good without
Yeah.
Miles.
I feel like you got to go New York.
I think you got to go New York against
Finley.
It's not Finley.
It's Brandon Allen.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Yes. This is why we let Ken answer the question.
Yeah,
We're
Brandon
gonna
Allen.
let Ken do that.
I'm amazed.
Yeah, we did that before the show. I'm like, what? He was that bad? I gotta go New York Giants. I gotta go to Giants. I mean, they're both really good. These are two top five defenses.
I was going to say, it's not really a law. You start the other one, you're feeling pretty good about yourself and your chances.
Yeah.
When it comes
It
to
feels
the
like
defense.
there's maybe some universe where Glennon completes some deep passes.
Why?
Maybe.
Why does it feel
he's got
that
a
way?
big arm and he's 6'7".
I don't know.
But
by the way, he says the Saints defense is also available in his league. They've been really good.
They've been really good. They should not be available.
I might go pick them up in a league if they're available. My God.
I saw it. I actually, in one of my leagues.
Hang on a second. Would you start the Saints defense or the Browns defense? This is actually a question in my league.
Ooh.
Yeah. They had like 8 sacks last week or something like that. They had a bunch of them.
I may still. Browns played really, really well.
They did. They played quite well. Yeah.
I think we're gonna go to Browns still.
All right.
I San Francisco coming off of a bye, the interdivisional games, they could, second time around can sometimes be tricky. I'll go Cleveland.
All right, very good.
But they should be owned. New Orleans Saints defense should be owned. I was shocked.
Would you carry 2 defenses?
It depends what else you're carrying, but not by rule.
Yeah, I try to avoid that myself if at all possible. All right, Steve needs a flex. His options, Balaj, I guess it's only if Eckler doesn't play. Jerry Jeudy, Jarvis Landry, Michael Pittman, Corey Davis, and Travis Fulgham, too.
I dropped Fulgham. Oh, how might he have fallen? So it's very easy. If Eckler does not play,
then you play Balaj.
Then it's Balaj.
Yeah.
I kind of like Pittman here against a not real good secondary in Tennessee. I kind of like Pittman there to do well.
Okay. Go ahead, Kyle.
All right. So, would you play? Well, we mentioned DJ Chark, Devontae Parker.
Parker's got a great matchup.
What about Jalen Reagor?
I have Parker over Reagor.
Okay, fair enough. Goddard or Ebron?
Here we go again.
I know,
I'm
right?
1 for 2, right?
I've played Ebron each of the past weeks, for what it's worth. So Ebron not that it matters, he gets a lot of red zone targets.
He does.
Where are we with Zach Ertz, by the way? What's the?
He might be back.
Might be back. There's been no practice. They really haven't. Again, doing this on Wednesday. We haven't had time to. We haven't had time to do it, but I always lean towards starting pass catchers against the Seahawks. So I'll go Goddard.
All right.
Both in my top 10 for the argument, just so you know. But
look at me thriving over here. Jonnu Smith or Jordan Reed?
I still have Jonnu. I know it's a tougher matchup, but they do look for him. Just watch. He went in and out of the game last week at the end. I still have Jonnu there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough to trust. It's tough to trust San Francisco a ton.
They're intriguing, but
they have 2 guys. See, that's the thing. They have 2 guys.
Well, they have Mostert back, and you probably want to run the ball, but we'll see. I have no idea. Damian Harris or Salvan Ahmed?
What's Gaskin's story? There was some thought that he could.
I don't think he comes back.
They didn't. Yeah, they didn't. They said no timetable essentially.
Well, I know, but he was eligible to be activated.
Yeah,
that's the
but
point.
They haven't done it yet.
I dropped Gaskin.
I'm gonna go.
Ahmed's played very
I'm gonna
well.
go Ahmed simply because I know Sony Michel was inactive last week, but I don't expect that with Rex out, with Rex Burkhead out, that to be the case. So there's some carries taken off of Harris. Ahmed gets everything. So even with Breda back, they haven't been interested at all, and he's played terrific.
Tanyan, Graham, or Reed?
They're all right there. I'll go Tanyan. I know it's the toughest of the 3 matchups. Graham, I can't touch. I can't. Outside of Allen Robinson, I can't trust anything in Chicago. And again, Reed, you still have Dwelly there. I'll go Tanyan.
All right. I have Josh Allen as my quarterback.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Better use of my last bench spot now that Burrow is hurt. I also have Josh Jacobs. Is it Devontae Booker, or is it Derek Carr?
It's probably Derek Carr, because if, and then you're praying on the waiver wire.
I already have Alexander Madison on my bench.
Yeah, I think. I mean, we want to. I get it. I like to handcuff at this time everybody I can, but it's tough to go in with one quarterback and then he gets hurt and you don't get Carr, and now we're starting Baker Mayfield. So Carr.
That's what I did as well. All right, and last but not least, on this team here, would you play Debo, Corey Davis, John Brown, if he plays, or DJ Chark?
Okay, I can't trust Brown because even if he plays, the in-game stuff is too risky.
I just included him because he's on the roster for what it's worth.
I mean, I know he had like 20 targets last week, but then he injured himself late. Yeah. I think in that group, I think I'm
Chark.
Yeah, I think I'm going to still lean Chark there.
All right. From Tom. Tom wants to know what you've been hearing about George Kittle. Somebody released him in his league.
I heard he's out for the year. It's the last. Haven't even heard that it's a consideration he's coming back this year.
I think there was some discussion.
That's definitely not what Shanahan said.
I think there was some discussion that it's not like out of the question. Now
it's not out of the question. No, I mean it's not. But I
this
don't.
was on November. When was November 17th? That was last week. Kyle Shanahan said, in addition to Jimmy Garoppolo, Ben Garland, and George Kittle have a chance to return at some point this season.
Some point. Okay. I'm not. If you have an IR spot that you can put him into.
But Tom's question is more complicated than that. God. So he says, right now the guy that released him, that leaves him on waivers. Mm-hmm. Do I put in a waiver claim for him, or do I simply see if he clears waivers to pick him up?
Depends where you are in the waiver number. If it's a top waiver claim, 1, 2, or 3, probably not. If it's less than 1, 2, or 3, yeah, I can see doing it.
Okay, very good. From Steve. Steve says,
Does anybody ever have simple questions?
No, that's why they ask him.
I know.
I mean, if it was a simple question, yes, correct. They'd probably solve it. Bench one, Fuller, Kupp, or Justin Jefferson?
No, I don't want to.
Okay, well, hang on. There's a second layer to it, so go ahead.
Let's start all three, and then let's go to the second layer for now.
Well, because there's a flex question involved too.
That's what I mean. Let's start all three. Let's go to flex question.
Okay, so you're starting it over.
I'm starting 03. Am I starting any of these?
Are you starting Antonio Gibson over one of them?
Yes, you are.
So now, don't you feel like a jerk?
No, now I have to go backwards.
He was asking a relevant question.
Oh, my God.
Fuller, Kupp, Justin Jefferson. I mean, you're the expert.
Justin Jefferson.
Okay, very good.
Oh, my God.
Very good.
Nice team.
You're very perplexed by it.
That's tough.
You're very perplexed by it. Anything else we need to know going into Week 12 of the NFL season? By the way, we do need to know that you can supercharge your computer skills with beginner to advanced classes at CCBC. They're all tuition free if you qualify. 443-840-4700. Now, anything else we need to know?
So, Ty Johnson is a name that probably, as Glenn's looking at me,
I'm befuddled. I don't even know where he plays now.
He plays for the New York Jets.
I had no idea.
Okay, he's probably a guy, as we're churning benches. Should probably.
It was the name of my cover band in college, the Churning Benches.
Churning Benches? Yes. Oh, cool. We should probably have him owned in leagues. Frank Gore is the guy. I couldn't believe I put in a waiver claim for Frank Gore in 2020.
I really can't believe he did that either.
It's just amazing to me, and I'm starting him in a league. But he's a third down guy. He actually when Gore and Perrine were active, he got a couple of touches a week. So they're running back desperate teams.
That is something.
He's a guy that should be owned at this point. Keep an eye out on the IR guys. Eckler has a chance. Mostert we assume He's back. Would like to see a practice out of him.
Hang on. We're going to wrap with this because I love this part of it. Chris says, Glenn, once again, please tell Ken not to react the way he wants to when I ask this question. I feel like it's fairly legitimate.
It is legitimate. I don't want to bench any of them.
No. He has.
I thought this was the
he did this last week. It was very. I enjoyed this part of the show.
Yes.
Aaron Rodgers or Justin Herbert?
It's legitimate. There, you happy?
You didn't react the same way last week. You rolled your eyes.
I know.
He's got to be nearing the point where he just admits he was wrong.
No, I don't admit I'm wrong.
He'll never admit it. He'll die before he does that.
Yeah, he's been pretty excellent.
I have Herbert higher.
Oh! Oh my God! What a day!
I have Herbert higher.
Well, you know what that means.
I know he'll
100% not going to work.
Crazy.
100.
And I'm going to blame all of you. You all have done this to me.
What a moment! What?
Can we end on one more thing?
No. It's your show. Go ahead.
Okay. Name the quarterback. We talked about this. So I have Lamar Jackson as low as I have ranked him in 2 years.
Understandable.
Okay. Name the quarterback that you would start over him. Okay. Now, obviously, it's not Russell Williams, Mahomes, Josh Allen,
the great
Murray,
Russell Williams, of course.
Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Kyler Murray, Deshaun Watson, or Justin Herbert. We'll say that those six definitely.
Right.
Would you start Derek Carr over him?
Well, right now I would for sure. 100%. Are you kidding?
This week, yeah.
Would you start Tom Brady over him?
Against Kansas City? Yeah, I think I would.
Probably.
Would you start Aaron Rodgers over him?
Actually, I don't think I would against Kansas City. I think I would play Lamar still.
Okay. Would you start Aaron Rodgers? So there's one. Would you start Aaron Rodgers over him?
Yeah, for sure.
Would you start Taysom Hill over him?
Yes.
I know that you're asking the question because you would, I would not.
Okay. So one to one. So right now, would you start Ben Roethlisberger over him?
No.
I would think about it, but no.
Okay. And would you start, and this is a caveat question, Matt Ryan over him if Julio is active against Vegas?
Still no.
Yeah, I don't think I would either.
Okay. So
you've got all of them ranked? Is that what you're about to tell us?
So I have them all ranked right now over Lamar Jackson, and I have Lamar Jackson as a QB2 this week at number 13. But those last couple. So you guys would have him as high as 11 max this week.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. So I just wanted to go because when I'm doing my rankings, I'm like, okay, no,
right,
well,
right,
no.
right.
Well, maybe I'd start him there. I have him at 13. I don't like where he is at 13. But then I'm like, then I do that exercise in my head and I look at the matchups. Now, it makes it easier if Julio Jones doesn't play or we don't get tomorrow that he practices, then he's over Matt Ryan for sure. The one I had the most trouble with, quite honestly, is Ben Roethlisberger.
Yeah, I think the Ravens secondary is still...
They're vulnerable. They
are. I know.
And we still don't even know who other players might be.
We don't know who's playing.
Correct.
So
that's the world we're living in.
So, okay. I just wanted to do that exercise.
For F's sake. Paul, this is it, I swear.
Okay,
Tim Patrick on my bench. Is he worth putting in as a flex versus New Orleans? You didn't tell us who your other options are, Paul.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. At Fans Fantasy on
He's absolutely worth. He's flex worthy in my rankings.
But you got to tell us who the other options are, and Paul knows that. I love Paul, but
I love Paul too.
You got to.
Paul knows how to get in touch with me.
Yeah, hit him up at Fans Fantasy on Twitter. PressBoxOnline.com to see all of his rankings. KZ, have a wonderful Thanksgiving. You'll be back here with me tomorrow night. We're spending Thanksgiving together.
Apparently now we will, since the Ravens are on a plane.
I mean, that's the word. That's the word. KZ and I tomorrow night for Project Game Day. After the game is over, we will see you then, and then we'll be back here next Thursday, regular time, 11:30 a.m. for the Press Box Fantasy Football Show. Don't forget Glenn Clark Radio coming up in just about 20 minutes right here in the same locations, facebook.com/PressBoxSports, PressBoxOnline.com/radio.